I'm going to be looking at this pepper plant today. It's what I've been growing in that container garden. But because we're in September now, temperatures start to drop and plants like tomatoes and peppers are going to be first to suffer. So what I want to do is trim this plant back a little bit and then overwinter it, take it indoors and try and keep it going until next spring. And I'm going to do that with a couple of plants today so you get a better idea of what to do to your plants in preparation for overwintering them indoors. But before I get into that, I just want to mention a couple of followers of this channel. Two people that's been following this channel for over a year. And that's Josie and Vernon Bridges. They've both been constant supporters of this channel since we first started. But their situation has changed quite recently. Her husband Vernon had a bit of a fall and is currently in a rehab facility. And because of their personal situation, once he does get home, they're going to have to give up gardening, which is a massive change to people. But Josie has still seen a little light at the end of the tunnel, because although they won't be in a position to be doing gardening, they can still grow microgreens indoors, and that's what she's decided that they're going to do. Obviously, there's going to be quite a bit of aftercare for Vernon once he does get home, and Josie's going to have to be on top of that. But it's really good to see that even though you're in that situation, you're still finding some way that you can carry on doing gardening to some extent. And I'm quite sure that everybody else on this channel would join me wishing you all best for the future and Vernon a very speedy recovery. But just a personal message to Vernon: take your time, don't rush it, because we're a community of gardeners. We like to support each other in any way possible, and that don't always have to be just about gardening. So all the best to you both, and maybe we'll hear from you soon. I'm now going to take a look at this pepper. It's not a bad looking plant, to be honest. It's a nice stocky little plant. It's still actually got flower buds on it, although they're not going to amount to much of anything. But we have got lots and lots of fresh growth on this. And I think that is worth trimming back, taking indoors and trying to overwinter. When you're overwintering these plants, ideally you want to downgrade the container. They don't need to be in massive containers. If they're in an average size container like this, then that's fine. But you don't want to be taking them indoors in really big containers. And there's different processes when it comes to overwintering. Some people cut these back until there's barely any leaves on it at all, and just a couple of sticks. I've done that lots of time in the past, and I've had more failure than success with that method. But I think that's also due to another factor. You can't just take it indoors and put it in your room and just leave it. It's going to need warmth. It's going to need constant light every day. Otherwise the plants just slowly die back. So if you've got a conservatory, and I'm pretty sure Carol says she's moved a couple into her conservatory recently, or you've got a sunny window, as long as you can provide that plant with at least 4 to 6 hours of sunlight a day, or artificial light, although we don't really want to be doing that because of energy problems, but some way of keeping that plant going. We're not looking to get fruit off it. What we're going to be doing is treating it as a perennial house plant. And we're not going to go down the road self-pollinating these little buds to grow peppers when obviously the heat conditions and the light levels aren't going to be enough to make that a success anyway. We're just going to try and keep this plant alive. I have also got this one in another container, but this one is in quite a big container, and it's not exactly something you'd want in your living room. But the plant looks very healthy. It's got a nice big pepper on it as well. But when it comes to something like this, and you want to try and save this over winter, you'd be better off taking this out of this container and downgrading it. And of course, you can straighten it at the same time if you do that. I think personally, that size container is going to be fine for this plant. So I'm just going to cut it down a little bit as it stands. And then I'll repot this one into something a little bit smaller. And what we'll do with that is we'll wash it outside. We'll wash all the compost away, the old compost. And we'll cut back the roots a little bit as well. And then move it into another container. And then we could take both of those indoors. So if you look at this plant a little bit closer, you can see we've got all these leaves along bottom. So removing these bottom leaves, would be the first thing I'd want to do. If I just snip a couple off that's a little bit higher, you can see these leaves are no good. They're yellowing, they've been chewed at, and we want to be getting rid of anything like that. So gradually just going around, selecting all these yellowing leaves, cutting them away, and just leaving all this new growth. When you do this, just take your time. You just want to get in a position where we've got a very nice clean plant. There is some quite big leaves on here, but again they don't look very healthy, so we need to get rid of those. And we're just gradually going around removing anything that's got damage or is slightly yellowing to any extent, because those leaves won't get any better once they start yellowing. Then I'm just going to clear all that bottom. This part has got new growth coming. If you can see that there, it's got some nice fresh growth on it, but it's also got a leaf on side that's been a bit chewed. So we might as well just get rid of them as we're going. And it looks quite harsh as you go around this plant, because it seems like you're cutting the entire plant away, but once you get further up, you're still going to be finding these leaves that are yellowing. They're just not going to get any better indoors, so they might as well come off. We don't want an ugly plant indoors. We've took away any damaged leaves, and I dare say if you go back around it again afterwards, you'll find another one. And this plant already looks 100 times better. If we look on top of that plant, we can see we've got all that nice brand new growth there. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I think to take it indoors like that, it's a nice looking plant. We can add a little bit of feed just to boost nutrients in this container, and we'll see how it gets on. I might even change this container and put it in something a little bit more attractive at some point if it's going to be staying indoors through autumn and winter. But I'll make that decision when it comes to it. If it's going in a back room, I don't see much point in disturbing plant. But one advantage of doing that is if you take it out of a container at this stage and check it, you'll then be able to see whether you've got any problems with root system. But they come out of these containers so easily. If you wanted to just have a look, just check the roots on the bottom of that plant and then make a choice on whether you think that that might need a bit more extra space. When it comes to ones like these, it's a bit different, because we don't want this container indoors. And this has got a pepper on it. And again, the leaves all look quite healthy. This one is just trying to ripen, but it's very slow, and obviously at this time of year it's not going to get a deal faster. But I don't want it in this container. I want to put it in something a bit prettier, if you like, and definitely smaller. So we're going to have to take that outside and deal with that. But I'm going to take this pepper off it as well. We'll just pop that in the fridge and use it at some point over the weekend. Now we need to get this plant out, so I'm just going to roll it to loosen it off. Give it a bit of a shake around, and there we go. You can see the original root ball from when we first planted, but it has got quite a lot more roots since then. So we just need to get rid of this compost. We don't need all that. So shake it away and you're loosening all those roots off at the same time. It's not going to hurt your plant, but this is the way to downgrade it. And now you just got quite a small root ball left. So that didn't take too long, and that's what we're left with now. And while you've got it out of this container, we'll cut away some of those roots from bottom. And now we've made that much more compact. I've got one of these containers spare, and it's quite a bit smaller, but it's not a bad looking container. Looks like a miniature barrel, and I think that'd be perfect to pop this plant in. So basically I've put a bit of compost in the bottom of that container, and then I can just ease it down. And I want to make sure I keep it not only straight, but round about the same depth it were in that original container. And then I can just fill in around this plant. And we'll make sure we get that bedded in nice and firm. And we can just keep adjusting it as we go to keep it straight. But it's now got a brand new container. We've put it in fresh compost, and I'll give that a little bit of feed. And if you've got any Epsom salt, give it a little bit of diluted Epsom salt as well, because that will boost the growth on this plant, and it does help with root system at the same time. So now I think that is about as straight as we're going to get it. I think we're all done at that. So that plant will get watered in. I'll add a little bit of feed. And we've took a plant from quite a big, ugly container, which is perfect for garden, but not practical for indoors. And we've put it into something a bit more attractive. So now we can take this indoors and overwinter it. And then hopefully next spring, we'll get a jump on season, because we'll already have a couple of plants on go, which will then move into bigger containers to get bigger plants that will give us more fruit. We have got one final example of overwintering plants, and it's what some people do. It's the method I've tried before, and I've not had a lot of success with it. And it's a case of stripping your plant back to barely nothing. Quick and easy to do. Every leaf on this plant we're cutting away. We're basically not leaving any of that original growth on this plant at all. This plant is quite tired. It's got yellowing leaves on it. So it's a good one to use as an example. Trimming back those stems that are browned as well, just cutting them off. Original big leaves can all go. And you'll notice on your peppers, you've got that stem and you've got that V. And you can cut as much off of that as you want and just leave a tiny little bit of something like that on top. You will notice you've got little bits or extra growth that's trying to start. And that's the idea of doing it that way. A very harsh way of cutting back your peppers for overwintering. And if they're already in a container that size, that's perfect to just pop indoors. But basically what you're doing is you're putting that plant in a state of dormancy. It doesn't want to grow, it's just going to be on survival mode only. You'll still need to provide some light for it and warmth, or once again, it will still die. but it can survive on that minimum amount of leaves, because it's not trying to grow flowers, it's not trying to produce fruit, it's just existing. When you take your plants indoors, they'll need minimum water through autumn and winter, just a little bit, just enough to keep them going. Don't overwater them or everything will start and go from a really nice green to yellow. So that's the final way that people overwinter peppers. Cut them away and just leave yourself that Y shape with a couple of leaves on top. One other thing, if you decide to overwinter peppers and you choose to use them as a perennial house plant, leaving quite a lot of the foliage on these plants, before you take them indoors, make sure you check under all leaves. Make sure there's no aphids on there or insect eggs of any kind. Give them a good blast down before you move them indoors. And make sure you're taking in a very nice, clean plant. And even though these plants are going to be for overwintering, as we go through the next few months, you're going to get days where it is quite sunny. If it's not really cold and you've got a greenhouse, they'll benefit from bringing them outdoors and popping them in your greenhouse to get some natural sunlight for a few hours. But don't do that if it gets really cold. Anyway, I think I've covered just about everything that I can think on for this, and hopefully it's going to help a few people who did ask what I do when I overwinter peppers. Once again, best of luck to Josie and Vernon during that recovery process over the next few months. And if you're interested in seeing what I'm going to be doing over the weekend, then please hit that subscribe button and press that notifications bell, and I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.